before I ask about Quentin, I have to ask about Star Wars. Because it pains me to even think this thought. Star Wars is obviously something that's going to be with us in perpetuity, I imagine. Now that Disney has their hands on it, we're going to get movies forever, I imagine. Was it ever a concern in referencing so much the original trilogy that might not be the version of Star Wars most familiar to current readers? I don't know if that's a thing. I'm just wondering if the the JJ trilogy would be the one to focus on now, because I'm thinking even, God, it pains me because I remember seeing Phantom Menace in the theater and walking out, and I was the only person, by the way, that wasn't completely devastated. Everyone else was walking out, like, the acting was bad. Like, it's a Star Wars movie. The acting is bad. It's fine. There was a pod race. They fought lightsabers. Still the best lightsaber fight for my money. I'm defending the Phantom Menace. That Darth Maul lightsaber fight worth the price of admission.
It's blasphemy.
I'm sorry.
It's blasphemy.
We're enemies for the rest of the show. That's unfortunate. Do you want to rank your favorite Star Wars movies?
I mean, honestly, the Episode 4. A New Hope was that was the first movie I ever saw in a theater that was not animated. It was my first live action movie ever. So that will always hold a very special place in my heart. And, and it's funny. I mean, actually, one of the, when I was researching Quentin's character in particular, I talked to a lot of friends who have children who are autistic, or somewhere along the autism spectrum. My nephew is actually on the autism spectrum. And I also watched a lot of documentaries about autism. And in one of them, there was a boy who was absolutely obsessed with Star Wars. And I think, for him and actually with my kids, in some ways, they have more access because of streaming to these movies than I ever had when I was a kid. I think, we had a video cassette of it that I wore out when I was in 6th or 7th grade. I think we finally got a VCR, but I'm a dinosaur, I was growing up in that era. So
I watched the original trilogy on beta. So sure.
Yeah.
Betamax with the old TV.
Yeah, exactly. So I think actually for my kids, they have all of them, in the cloud, and so they just watch whichever ones they prefer. And for them, they actually really do prefer the first. They love the first and the second. They love Episode 4 and 5, Empire, even though it doesn't have the happiest ending. They love that one. My kids do not like the middle movies, like the 1, 2, and 3. They do not like those movies at all. And they've been thrilled with the latest ones just because Rey is such a great character, and having a girl really propel it forward, I think, has been huge for them. So I don't know. I worried about it a little bit, but I also felt like when I was writing this, actually for both books, my kids were right in that strike zone, when they were that age. So it means that I know how these kids talk. I know what a lot of their pop culture stuff is. My kids actually went through a whole summer where they were obsessed with I Love Lucy. And they watched every episode of I Love Lucy, I think 3 times. They just kept going back through the seasons over and over again. So it's just kind of hilarious because they have access to things that you would think they would find super dated, but they love them. So yeah, I wasn't as concerned about that part.
I agree. And for those members of esteemed audience who are eternally curious, Empire is also my favorite Star Wars movie. So there you go. Although
you've redeemed yourself.
Well, I'm gonna unredeem myself because I genuinely enjoy Revenge of the Sith. The prequel trilogy is it's hit and miss. It's better than not a Star Wars movie for the most of it. But a few grown and inducing moments in that third film when Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker, I almost forgot, have that lava fight.
Ooh, oh my God, the lava fight. Oh, no. Nope.
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree with it, I suppose. So let's talk about autism.
One note on that though. So here's the one thing that really bothered me about that is apparently they still had speed of light technology for their ships at that point, but they didn't have ultrasound, so they had no idea she was having twins. I felt like,
well,
I mean,
I like how they tried to sneak in an internet-like capability in the new series. They're like, yeah, no, the ships are all connected, of course.
Yeah,
we
of
totally
course.
foresaw that. People like living in these big bulky rooms. Nobody brought a beanbag chair or something. No.
Exactly.
It's